Boys is getting quiet. Go on and get crunk. Head back to Longview, Kelly popping trunk. I ain't even tripping. Riding and I'm sipping. Let me come through, 4-4, steady tipping. On that new lap. Watch the trunk crack. Let me sit sideways, CB running back. Maybe AP, maybe AD. I ain't even tripping cause we some athletes. Messing with Smitty in the summertime. He get pissed if we don't make our time. But we gon' get it cause we gotta finish. Nebraska Horn Hustlers, man, we diminish. Put them boys little, paint like a skittle. I ain't even tripping, I ain't never double dribble. Cause I'm a player from the Himalaya. Let me sit sideways, man. Maybe back door, maybe fall off. Sipping codeine cause I gotta kill a cough. Let me sit sideways in the big Benz. Oh, you boys, they my brothers, they my friends.
All right. Welcome into Fullback U, and these guys need no introduction. We could have had a full podcast already. Me and Rufus been sitting here talking for about an hour, and we're going to tell everybody what we're talking about. Let's bring in the vet, PJ Mills, first. How you feeling, P?
AKA the late guy. I'm good.
The late guy. You great. Late, but better late than never. Ruf, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. Just, feeling trapped. I don't like being trapped from the rest of the world, but, just feeling locked down.
Let's start with that. You guys were talking about music that you were listening to, some of the things that you used to listen to. Rufus, you would be lying if you said you never listened to Ignition or the remix to it. You listened to it in college, had it blaring in the locker room. Hilarious times. PJ, talk about the challenge you've been doing. Let us know on Facebook what's been going on.
Man, it's pretty cool, man. I love music more than sports. It's just something about music that my parents put into me, and I just love music, my whole life. It's interesting. Had a couple of friends from VA. They sent it to me. I'm not saying they originated it, but they sent it to me, and it's basically just says every day for 20 straight days, you put up an album cover of an artist that influenced your taste in music. So, like, I choose to do 20 consecutive albums, and then you're going to say it's no reviews. You're not reviewing it. It's just putting up a picture and then letting people respond to how that album hit them. So, in this downtime when there's not a lot for us to do, music has always been my go-to after praying, and just enjoying the creativity, trying to, I think J.D. will put this, so I'm going to switch up and push that. Okay, I'm going to try to take Lil Wayne from Rufus before he can put it up so it can seem like I did it first. Those type of things. Yeah. It's just kind of fun to have so much serious stuff going on. That's all.
Ruf, like I said, Ignition was a big part of your life. What else you got?
Man, like I said, lately I've been listening to a lot of Frankie Beverly and Maze and Earth, Wind and Fire, bro. It's kind of been what I've been on, and there's a lot of things that I would listen to at barbecues, family reunions, and different things like that. A lot of Prince and all that. Purple Rain was real big at my house. My mom.
He in my bag right now.
Yeah, my bag. That's awesome.
Hey, listen, Earth, Wind and Fire is my favorite group of all time. So
yeah, man, that's kind of all the stuff I've been jamming here lately, man. I mean, a few little young rappers and stuff, but man, it's kind of ain't really much you can do right now but mellow out, listen to music and stuff. My wife listens to a lot of different kind of music and stuff, so it's kind of it's gonna be me. I'm gonna be an Earth, Wind and Fire, Frankie Beverly and Maze. You can't go to a barbecue and that dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
Whoa! I mean, when that drops, you're like, yeah, it's time. Hey, the party will start. Dominoes start slapping on the table. Yeah.
Well, I let go.
What's up?
Hey, nephew, go get me a beer. All right.
That's it. He throw it to you. Yeah. Hey, we got some great taste in music. My dad was a big Sam Cooke fan, so he got me hooked on Sam. Great singer. Got a few people coming on the pod. I was gonna try to surprise you guys today with them, but I want to get a story for you, PJ, Keith Sparks, for you, Rufus, Kejuan. We're gonna get Keith Sparks on the pod. Let me know a story, or let me know how I can get some jokes out of him, PJ, before he gets on the pod. Tell me something about him.
Man, Keith is a great cat, man. Sparks he's a great cat. Very smart. But we used to, you know how you get in the weight room, people challenge people. Everybody just challenged him to do more. Like he had all the challenges on him, especially on squatting. I mean, it was almost like he could squat the world. Ask him about us. How many times we tried to make him go higher and higher in what he had to squat. Listen, he got most of it.
Yeah, that's what's up. Tell me a Kejuan story, Roof. We got plenty of them.
I mean, for Kejuan, man, for me, you have to ask Kejuan, why was he a power back in a 190-pound body?
Brother.
And why did he run so damn hard? Dude, he was probably one of the guys. He's Kejuan was 190 pounds. And I mean, dude, he'd run like he's 230 and he'll run straight into you. And just somebody that worked extremely hard throughout every practice, every workout. And bro, he ran with a chip on his shoulder. My favorite Kejuan story is I want to know how the hell he got up after Gayron Allen hit him in practice that one day.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want to know how the hell he get up and continue to practice, because these days he'd be out on the sideline and they'll take his helmet away.
Out of there.
He came back. He got back to the huddle, wiped his nose off, and kept on going.
That was it. He took one in the Texas game, got up, threw the damn horns down. Legendary player. Well, first, Keith has been a great big bro in our Facebook group. I've actually met him a few times, man. He's helped so many former players out. I can't wait to have him on the pod. Kejuan became one of my, he was a Jinx guy a year ahead of me and you, Roof. And in Oklahoma, he was the just state player of the year. He had this legendary play against Tulsa Union on TV, caught an 80-yard slant. They were behind, runs in for touchdown. Ends up becoming one of my best friends. Rufus, you mentioned it. We become on the goal line package my true freshman year. Just crazy. We ended up being coach coming year.
In these days, though, would he transfer with an Adrian Peterson coming in? Because that took a lot of the reps that he would get.
That's a great question. Would
he transfer and go to another school?
Yeah.
In today's era, with Adrian coming to OU and being the guy that he was?
That's a damn good question, especially with the portal. And, one thing, he probably would have been on track, that senior year to really take that step. PJ, I want to get your thoughts, and then Rufus especially, because you made it down to some games. Obviously, with the season cut short, I want to get your thoughts. What'd you think about the XFL, PJ? Did you catch any games? I believe they have a team out in D.C. Were you the Chocolate City? Was that your squad? Or let me know.
Well, I mean, I think it's good because it's another avenue for guys to continue to play the sport they love, another avenue to be able to provide for their families, do something that they love and that they've practiced to do these type of things most of their young to adult life. So I like alternative avenues to sports that we like. We know nothing's going to surpass the NFL, nothing's going to surpass the NBA, but that doesn't mean you can't have the XFL. That doesn't mean you can't have G leagues and different things to be able to showcase people's talent. Because sometimes the XFL or maybe like the G League in basketball, maybe a guy retires or a guy gets hurt, and then you have real scouts who doesn't just go to the colleges, but they're able to have influence and have people that can, point them in the right direction to see some talented people that maybe nobody even knows about. And those are situations that I think can help those type of people, G leagues and the XFL. There's talent out there. You just got to go find it.
Absolutely. Rufus, you got to go down to a few games, or at least one game, I'm sure. But the Renegades, let me know how Coach Stoops and all the squad was.
They're in a good spot, man. I mean, you got they was playing at the old Texas Ranger Stadium, and then they had the new one like right down the street, and then they got this Texas Live bar and stuff right down the street. So everything is within walking distance, and so it allows a lot of people to do a lot of things before they go to the game. So it was a good atmosphere. The tailgating was really cool, man. It had a lot of people that were there. It was fun. I mean, they had a good crowd. And they have a good little team. I mean, Frank Alexander's on the team, and he looks like a monster out there. Saw Badette, Jarrell Jackson. They got some good guys out there that's with Coach Stoops' staff. That it's gonna be a good league. I just think it'll take 3 years of college kids getting in there that can still play at an elite level to up the level of play that's in that league. But for what I watched, it was fun. it wasn't like trash football or anything like that. I saw the kid that quarterback. What's his name? We was talking about him earlier from Temple.
Oh, DJ or was PJ or something like that?
PJ, yeah. He didn't have the greatest game, but man, he made some moves out there that was really smart, really heady football playing and stuff. So it was some good quality football, good quality coaching and stuff out there. So it wasn't like some just thrown together XFL stuff. He hate me things out there.
Yeah.
The kickoff was interesting to see live, which it was really cool to see. The kickoff, I think the NFL could take something from that kickoff. I mean, it takes away a lot of the collision, but
the conversion stuff.
Yeah, the conversion stuff was really cool. But I think the big thing is the kickoff situation will be something that I think the NFL can go to, and it'll be a funner thing. It's a lot like punt, but at a closer distance.
Yeah.
It's just like punt return, punt return, but at a closer distance, and everybody's spread out a little bit more. So you got to block really well in space.
Yep.
And it's a good deal. I like a lot of the things that they were doing in the XFL.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, you mentioned it. One of y'all did, but AAA is needed, or a developmental league is needed. I think it was PJ that said it, man. PJ, I think about my UFL days. Dude, we sitting around. There's Jay Gruden's there. Sean McVay is there. Dante Culpepper is there. Denny Green, well, rest in peace, was one of the coaches there. Tom Fossil is one of the coaches. I mean, you're talking about some elite. Theismann is one of the investors. You've got some elite names in this league. There is no reason we should be playing at a stadium with cardboard lockers, with bathroom in the Citrus Bowl with bathrooms that don't work. The locker room situations that look like Major League. There's no way. They giving us dirty. We asked for a pair of gloves because here's the thing, PJ and Roof, and y'all have both been there. The gap between NFL and college isn't that much. You go to OU, it's nice as hell. You go to Chicago, it's nice as hell. But then you go to this league that's supposed to be in the middle, and what is this? Like you just let OU has a Vegas club spa for their pool, or rehab room. Chicago has a huge rehab room. This place ain't even got. I mean, we playing in baseball stadiums.
And unlike Minnesota, I mean, I think you had a different experience in Chicago. Minnesota was horrible. I mean, their training facility, how you get from injury and all that stuff, bro. It was their training facility was horrible. I had to go to a nursing home to use a treadmill, an underwater treadmill. Man. I mean, wow. The facility was horrible. They can say whatever they want. Cowboy Stadium was terrible before they went to the new.
Heard their facilities weren't that great. Yep.
The locker room, I mean, at OU, OU was way beyond what it was in the NFL. And I think NFL does. They don't once you get hurt, they don't challenge you to come back the way the college would challenge you to come back. They more try to minimize you from getting an injury or anything like that. And I just thought training-wise, workout-wise, all this other stuff, college was so far superior than the NFL.
Now, at Minnesota,
I think the people that train you in Minnesota, they just training guys not to get hurt, and you just doing just kind of run-of-the-mill stuff. And I think that's true about a lot of because you see so many athletes, they go and train somewhere else. They don't train a lot with the facility guys. Indianapolis wasn't that great. I mean, but everything we did was more about what bands and all this other stuff. It wasn't no clink, get the weights, put 400 pounds on it and all that stuff. No power cleans. It was more just keep you, just kind of keep you in kind of things. Yeah, maintain type of thing. It didn't do much for me.
Real quick, Minnesota still has, so I guess you would say on the negative side, they still have the ball-headed trainer I see run out whenever somebody gets hurt. And then, so you know him. And then I took a pre-draft visit to Minnesota, and the food was legit. So you got to talk about the cafeteria lady now.
Oh, yeah, the cafeteria. I forgot this lady name.
Miss D or Miss G.
Yeah, Miss D. That's who it is, Miss D.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh, dude, woman can throw down. And she was cool. She was cool as all get out.
Yeah.
She was
So
nice.
that was the one thing about Minnesota.
Yeah, that was really cool. They had, Les Pico was the guy that would do the player stuff. He had any kind of problem. His name was Les Pico. Really good dude. But Sugarman and Roach, I think is the guy that was Sugarman's right-hand man training, like Jim, like you have Scott, you have Jim. Sugarman is Scott, and Jim is Roach, and they were a poor man's version of that, and Roach was terrible. Yeah. I begged these guys to let me stay in Oklahoma to do my ACL rehab. I said, man, I will come back and I will be a lot better if I stay there. And the Roach and the Sugarman guy got offended by it.
Yeah.
And they were mad because I came back to OU to get my surgery. They wanted me to go get it. And I said, I'll go with their team doctor. I was like, I'm going back to Norman and do it. They did my first one. So they were upset when I did that. I walked back in and they were like, well, they said, how long you been walking after surgery? I was like, second day after surgery, they told me I can drop my crutches, and I dropped them. And they were like, so you've been walking since your second day of surgery? I was like, yeah, I came in, no swelling. My stitches wasn't in. I was fine, no sweat, nothing. I had my flexibility back. The other guy that went the same day that I went, his name was Moses. He played offensive line at West Virginia. And he went, we got our surgeries done the same day. He got on an airplane, came back. That boy's knee was so big and swollen. Oh. And he wasn't even walking or doing anything. He was still on crutches. They couldn't even, they had to wait to get his swelling go down so they can get his stitches out. That's how far down his stitches were. And they were mad at me. And I was like, bro, if I would have stayed at OU, I would have been better off than coming back and do it in Minnesota.
Yeah. So we got to get to OU football, even though there hasn't really been much football. PJ, you and I have talked.
We ain't having a football season this year. What you talking about?
You don't think so? Well, we'll get your opinion on that. But you and I had a long conversation about this, Rufus. OU got a new commit, PJ. Jordan Mukes out of Choctaw. Rufus is really excited. I'm a little more hesitant just because the kid's a project. And no offense to him. My thing on projects, PJ, and it's kind of like what you talked about. Long story short, defenses at OU, they take pride, man, and they have prideful players on every level. And when I was there, if you reached right as a defender, that guy was a draft pick. If you reached left, that guy was a draft pick. If you reached in front of you, either way, with either hand, behind you with either hand, they were all draft picks. So I just felt like it wasn't such a gamble on projects when you had the development wasn't a gamble when you had other players around there. All that said, PJ. What type of corner? The kid's a corner. What type of corners do you think we should look for? Do you think that there's just an intensity, the dog factor, the technique? Do you think the kid can just have a frame? We can get him there. Let me know.
Well, obviously, I would like to have a smart corner. I want somebody smart. I want somebody competitive. And I would like to add a little size. I'm not gonna lie. I would like to add a little size because these receivers are getting bigger.
Kid's got a 7-foot wingspan.
I would like to add a little size. So if you can give me a smart corner who is able to pick up tendencies and not make the same mistake, obviously I need everybody on defense to be able to tackle in space. So if you can give me a corner with good enough size, he's smart, competitive, he can tackle in space. I think that's what we need. I mean, I'm not asking for Deion Sanders or Rod Woodson or Mike Haynes, but I want somebody who can go out there and get the job done.
Rufus, what you got?
I mean, I like his size. I think he'll be, for the way he looks right now, I don't think he'll stay at corner. I don't think they're gonna be able to keep him under 225, 230. I think he's going to be a big kid. He's 6'3". He's 200 pounds right now. He may be a safety that can come in the box and blow somebody up. He looks like he runs well when he's out there, especially when he intercepts the ball and runs down the field. He's a guy that tracks the ball well and up in the air. Some of the interceptions I've seen him have, though, was a lot of ducks out there where he just kind of waited for the ball to come down and catch it. And then, and he was aggressive. He was a big guy, though. He's a big corner in high school. And so I just don't see him staying at corner at OU.
Yeah.
I see him moving to a safety because just his range, his length, and trying to keep a big guy to be able to keep if you can't keep him at 200, 205, 210, keeping that guy to keep his hips down all the time is going to be a tough task.
Well, and I've talked about this a lot, and schematically, that was kind of what you and I had spent 20 minutes on on talking about how if I'm an offense and I know the history of this kid and what he's played and what he has done and hasn't done, and I'm going to split two tall guys out and we're going to play the field vertically and we're going to play deep. That, to me, what you just kind of said, Ruth, to me makes me think a little bit more of him in a deep middle situation, like you said, because it just seems like football's going that way, BJ. It just seems like you've got to be able to cover as a let me ask you this, PJ. What do wide receivers do now more than you did? What do they do differently than you did when you played?
What do they do differently?
Yeah, do they train differently? Are they different earlier on in their development? Is the gap between, so like, for freshman year, I think a lot of wide receivers aren't ready to get jammed. They're not ready to get off press coverage.
Okay.
Blah 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 blah. Yeah. Are they doing those things still? Are they just more worried about catch and pass? Are they still run block oriented? Are they still is the complete package of receiver different than what it used to be?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think a lot of these guys, that their talent is recognized relatively early. Then whether it's their fathers, somebody in the family members, coaches, or maybe they reach out to someone else, they're getting a better understanding, I think, earlier of what the expectations you have to have going to college. So that's, yes, blocking. That's being able to know the entire playbook. Because, a lot of times when you come from high school to college, you really just worried about your position. Okay, what am I supposed to run? But as we've talked about before, when you have a total understanding of the offense, then it makes it easier for everybody. I think the receivers are getting bigger than they were a long time ago. We had some big receivers back then, but I think when you get a bigger receiver, I think they feel like they're going to be taller than most DBs, and that they're going to have a bigger catch radius with that type of size and athleticism. So that's some of the things that I'm seeing. I think they're being prepared to play in college, probably more so than what we were back then.
And that's the same. And I'll say the same. Those guys, they focus more on the release. They release a lot better than coming out of college. I mean, coming from high school into college. If you go look at a lot of guys that do a lot of the work they do, I mean, they're working on release, learning how to stack corners so they can have double goals. Most guys came into college and they were just, running their straight routes. They wasn't trying to stack anybody, giving themselves two-way goals. It was more like one of those things you learn when you got into college, learning how to release and stuff. So I think that was one of those things that's really different now that I see with guys that come into college. They release. I mean, watching CD as a true freshman, he knew how to stack a corner and know how to sink his hips and get into different routes. And he just polished it more and more now, more and more as he's in college. And the guys are coming in now with that knowledge already and knowing how to stack guys. I think that's what's so hard for corners now as well, because so many guys working with guys at wide receiver. So many guys work with guys at running back. So many guys work with guys at corner, but you don't have that real skill of a lot of guys working with DBs and stuff either. I mean, you just offered a guy to Louisiana that's really, really nice. The Keenan something or Keno something.
Alalicious, or where's he from?
Out of Opelousas. Yeah,
Opelousas.
He's right from my high school coach. He can play.
And Rufus, you made a great point by getting off the line of scrimmage. Your release, dictates a lot of times whether the ball is going to come your way, because if you have a hard time getting off the line, the quarterback is obviously going to have to go to his other reads. I also would say that I think footwork is getting really, really good, and footwork can get you open as well. Footwork can get you open as well. I'm seeing the footwork and the release, as you said, those two things are way ahead of people coming into college from when we came into collage.
Ruth, speaking of, go ahead.
And one. Boys out there and one now.
Absolutely. Big state basketball. Yeah, cross you up.
What in the hell kind of
Hey, Rufus,
taking ankles.
And Jake, let me ask you both this.
Yeah.
Footwork-wise, I'm only talking footwork. Who would you compare to Antonio Brown with just footwork?
Mark Clayton had the footwork. Mark Clayton footwork was nice.
My favorite OU receiver.
Yeah.
MC footwork was so nice, and he had he had a vision behind his head that he can see guys.
I'm gonna say a name.
Anybody.
I'm going to say a name, and I think y'all will agree with me. I got around TJ Hooshmanzada for a year. Hoosh was a dude, man. Hoosh could get open. He just had this savvy, this finesse, this made you think I stopped and go. It made you think I'm going to stop. It made you think
better
I'm
than Chad?
Yeah,
No.
Ocho Cinco footwork was nice.
Chad footwork was impeccable.
No. But I was comparing him as I was comparing it as a slot. We played Chad a little more outside. Yeah, so I was slot to slot. But no, Chad's different, man. I tell people this story. They're like, what was Chad like? Well, he's loud. He talks, but we ran 40-40s one day. Okay. And I'm talking out there is Drake Caldwell, Drake Roll. It was Florida guy. We had, rest in peace, my dog, Chris Henry was out there. He could run. I mean, we got some guys. Said B was out there. He could run. Man, Chad won all 40.
Wow.
All 40. He said, I'll give one of y'all $10,000 if y'all beat me in one of them. He saved his money.
Listen, in this era, we know that's crazy. In this era, we know T.O., Moss, Larry Fitzgerald, Harris. We know the guys, Andre Johnson, Megatron. But footwork, the two best footwork guys I saw in this era was a man from Pittsburgh, AB, and Ocho Cinco. Two best footwork I saw in the two.
Yeah.
Loved him to
just
death.
Footwork alone.
Yeah, their footwork is unreal. And I was like, just college-wise, being around Mark Clayton all the time, I could watch that dude. He would release easier than most guys would release, and he understood how to, if he wanted to go outside, how he would work his body to get outside. He dropped his hips so well. He was really good at all that stuff, but Ocho Cinco was just on another level. Just what he does footwork-wise. Now, all the guys right now are doing that some type of footwork.
Soccer background. He got that soccer background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They all doing all that stuff though now. You see, like you can watch it, man. All these kids go to camps or see with personal trainers. D-Rob work with a lot of guys, and you see him do all this type of footwork stuff. And it's that's why I think that's what gives these receivers such a hit.
Hey, J.D., you know who was the guy in college?
Who's that?
Footwork in the 90s that I thought footwork was impeccable.
Who
Peter
that?
Warwick from Florida State.
Oh man, that was my favorite player growing up. Him and Warwick Dunn. I was a Florida State fan growing up. Yeah, he's incredible, man. Just vision, instincts, ball in his hands. I mean, stop it, man.
Dude, who's the other guy? The guy from LSU, Reed.
25 or something like that.
And Andre Reed?
No, it wasn't Dre. I know you're talking. Did he wear number 25 or something like that?
I think he wore 25, but he.
I know you're talking about.
Yes, bro. His footwork was unreal.
Well, let me ask you this, Ruf. What does a linebacker need to know these days that he didn't need to know when you were playing? If you were coaching Rufus as a true freshman recruit, what did he not know now? More coverage, more what?
Man, it was Josh Reed.
Josh Reed, I remember him. Yeah.
Josh Reed. Right now, I think coverage is such a big thing now. I think guys can play in the gaps and learn their angles and stuff. It's pretty decent to it's not that hard to teach in college, but with the way that tight ends are playing so flexed out, they're not your traditional tight ends. The way running back runs route now. I mean, look at Joe Mixon, bro. The way he runs his routes. Look at guys like Kareem Hunt. The reason why he was able to stay in the league and stuff is because they can do so much now by splitting them out and stuff. And I think
Saquon Barkley. Yeah,
for linebackers, getting out in space now is such a big thing, and you having to relate routes, understanding reading 3-1, 3-2, or 2-1, and all that stuff, and seeing what comes at you and stuff, and it puts you in a bad predicament. But it's just I think the tight end position has evolved from a lot of guys being able to run so many different routes that linebackers have to be able to come in and understand the coverages and stuff now, understand leverages, because the reason why you don't go man-to-man a lot is because your running back is a mismatch against any linebacker.
Yeah, any linebacker.
I mean, DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray before, it was hard to get all the
any linebacker.
You can go back and ask, if you could tweet and ask Jermaine Gresham how I used to do them boys in practice. Jermaine Gresham, Joe John Finley, any of them. I wouldn't let them get off the line.
I got one for both of y'all.
Go ahead.
you pick from just these two of this era, Gronk or my man from Kansas City?
Gonzalez or
No,
Kelsey?
Gonzalez or Gronk?
I'm going Gonzalez, bro. I'm going Gonzalez all day. I mean, Gronk could block in line, but I'm talking about route wise. I think Gonzalez is a different cat.
Man, you know who I was a huge fan of, man? We're talking about basketball too. Antonio Gates, man. I mean, he just
tremendous athlete.
It's for as far as catching the ball, just his wiggle down the field and route ability. He was tough, man. He's tough.
I'm going Gonzalez.
I would say Gonzalez too, though. Ru.
I'm going Gonzalez before I go Gronk. I just think his route.
The one thing though that I thought that Gronk had over a lot of tight ends was obviously he could block extremely well, but where he was placed on the field, it didn't give an indication of if he was in the route or not because he could block so well. I thought that sometimes where a tight end or receiver places themselves, it gives a clue. The way they use Gronk as far as from the line of scrimmage, you never really got a clue of was he staying in the block or was he going to go out? And I thought that kind of helped him because he wasn't as fast.
And that's tough too. That's a great point, PJ, because Gonzalez was one of the first guys that they started splitting out compared to Gronk's one of the guys that they put him out at wide and just throw him a fade if you just put somebody out there that's a mismatch. So I mean that's a tough one too. Yeah, and that's why I like Gates a lot.
No, my favorite is Winslow though. Kellen Winslow was favorite time.
Oh, he's a beast. Yeah. But that's where I like Gates a lot because he did so much in the box too. I'm an old school guy in that sense. I got a scenario for you. PJ or Ruth, did you get the answer? You said Gronk, didn't you?
Yeah, Gonzalez is my guy. Gonzalez. His route running was so polished and how he sunk his hips and got out of turns and stuff. I think, a lot of guys model their game after what Gonzalez can do.
I got a situation for y'all. I think y'all are going to like it, okay? You can be honest, and I'll tell y'all mine. If you want, I got two people for you. So there's freshman PJ and senior PJ. There's freshman Rufus and senior Rufus. Okay. There's you already know where I'm going. There's freshman JD and there's senior JD. We got quarantine, right? We're on the team. You already laughing. I'm gonna admit it. Freshman JD is turning TF up. It's on, PJ. I'm going to Dallas, dog. I'm hollering at Rufus. I'm going cross country, fam. We taking tours. Fam. We going on pop a trunk wherever we go. Senior JD would have Rufus left. Senior JD would have probably been a little more football oriented, right? Tell me what freshman PJ, tell me what senior PJ would have been like at the quarantine at OU.
Out of control. Freshman year, out of control.
Man.
Not taking it serious. Listen, no. You talking about away from the field, right? I was focused on
because you off for 4 months. They say, hey, you ain't got to go back to June 1. No. You've been here. You played after your freshman year. So you're a freshman now. You've already been through college. Y'all was going through.
So that means I know everybody.
Exactly.
Yes, okay. Bad decisions all day long.
You talking about red shirt freshman Rufus decide.
Right.
That came in because that guy there is
right.
Because I did the whole Iron Man thing and I worked out. I was, JD, you worked out with me, bro. I was all in.
He's going crazy.
I was into the workout. I'd work out all day, every day. But if I already been there and I get to go back home and I know hey, look, man, it's my red shirt freshman year, I'm out. I'm out every day.
I'm out.
When I realized I was red shirt at OU, I was out every night. Game, I'll leave the game at halftime and be at the frat party. Everybody dress to get ready to. I was already on, so
now see, would senior year PJ be different? With PJ who has goals going. So this is PJ's off season of going into senior year.
Really focused.
Yeah, I'll be focused too. I'll be out there running hills, doing all that stuff, running the stadium, all that stuff. I'll be a different cat. Because after that, once you party for your freshman year, sophomore year, your junior, it's like it ain't much that you're gonna be able to do because you have your summer, you have your spring break where you go down to South Padre. You have, it's not much partying that you're gonna be able to do that's going to be different than what you did in college. And going out, people will be moving different in different places. In Louisiana, I wouldn't have probably went out too much because they move way different back at home. Because all these cats are back at home right now.
Most definitely.
So P, I don't want to I want to get y'all's opinion on this, okay? And I'll get a few more questions. We'll get off this quarantine pod, but my worry is this: as an OU guy, I saw an article, and I'll share it with you guys. And it basically asked who was D-line U, right? Well, in the top 5 of these teams, 4 out of the 5 have won the national title. I don't feel like, and maybe I'm being overly critical. And Rufus, I know you follow the star system a little bit closer. I feel like for us to win the national championship, and especially while we're on this quarantine, I feel like we have to have 5-star defenders. I feel like they have to at least have us in their top 10. I feel like they have to come visit us. I feel like we have to have those guys coming through the door. PJ, do you feel like that's true? Do you feel like we should do more to get those guys? Do you feel like what can we do to get closer to the national championship over the quarantine?
I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record. I am not a guy that has been concerned with what star they put by somebody's name. That's not necessarily it, because I've seen guys whose stars were a 3, and then when they changed their mind and went to a school that was more popular, their star ranking went up. That's real. So I'm not saying that they're not good players, not at all. But I'm saying I'm not a star guy. What do you do when the bright lights is on? And again, OU we're good enough to be in the Final Four. The issue is, being honest, we're not good enough to win it. So we have to find we have to fill that gap between being placed in the Final Four and being able to perform/win in the Final Four. And that's up to recruiting. Again, people hear this every time, and I'm going to say it every time. True evaluation of a player, not where he's from, not his star. What can he do? What do you think he can develop into? Can you see it, sign it, develop it, and stack it? I'm going to say that all the time because the bench was the biggest scare I had as a football player. I didn't want to go on the bench.
Yeah.
So once we get that and be able to perform in the Final Four, then, because right now, I don't mean to take up too much of time.
No,
right now we've gotten to the Final Four so often.
0-4.
People take that for granted, and they don't give us credit for that anymore because of what happens when we get in the Final Four. To truly get the respect we deserve, we have to actually win in the Final Four, and to get those dogs we need, they need to see us win so that they know if they come here, they can win. That's my.
That's real. What you got, Rue?
I'm with PJ as well, man. You got to be able to evaluate. I think what Coach Ship did for a long time was evaluate very well, and got some really good guys that he stacked behind and guys that he could develop in different things. I mean, he did a great job of just getting guys that can play.
Yep.
My thing is, you watch OU get off the bus now, defensive line wise. They don't look like they belong. When you saw them with Alabama, defensive line, it was one guy that got off the bus that looked like he could play out there with those guys. Even when they went against LSU, you just didn't see physically. We didn't look like we belong out there, except Neville Gallimore and sometimes Redmond. But you had like one or two guys, but you don't have that heart and soul of the team where like say with a Dusty, say like with a Corey Klein.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go Dusty. You go KK. KK was hard to move out the middle, and he did his job every time he can, and he looked the part. Size-wise, KK looked the part. Strength-wise, he was the part.
And if you didn't block him, he's back there.
He's back there in the backfield. And you go Dusty, he's more of an elite guy as far as what he can do from a Corey Klein, but the development off the field has to be strength-wise because they get pushed around too much, defensive end-wise, all that stuff. So recruiting a little bit more size that you can develop into something that can hold point. because we can't hold point whenever you play against a LSU or Alabama. Nobody that played against LSU required a double team. They could single block everybody. That's a nightmare for any linebacker that plays the game. And until we start developing the size to be able to go out there and compete, and when you get off the bus, not only look the part, but go out there and actually play with said size and be able to move, we won't be able to compete in those games. We didn't have a guy that can beat a guy off the line against Alabama. You didn't have a guy that can beat a guy against an LSU when you come off the line in the middle, except Neville Gallimore. So if you got one person, you know what, I can get away from that guy. You played against LSU, when we played against LSU, you saw Dan Cody was a problem. You had to figure out a guy to block Dan Cody. Tommy Harris was a problem. You had to figure out a guy to block Tommy. Dusty Dvorak was a problem. You had to figure out how you're going to tend to that guy. You can't block three guys. So you have to pick and choose when you're going to try to go at this guy. And hopefully the other guy doesn't play extremely well at that point in time. And you don't really have those things. And Jonathan Jackson was a solid player. I mean, he had speed and all that stuff. So you can't just go to sleep on him. Too many guys on OU's team you could just go to sleep on and be like, he ain't gonna do nothing. I can give 75% and block this guy, and it ain't gonna even matter because he doesn't hold a candle to what I can do, ability wise.
Let me ask both of you guys. Great point, Rufus. Let me ask both of you guys this: do you see a pattern and a trajectory? And what I mean by that is this: when Alabama was running roughshod over people, what happened?
They ran the ball 65% of the time. Oh yeah. I thought you were talking about just schematically, but yeah.
Clemson came.
So
what did Clemson do? Clemson. They focused, in my opinion, on being Alabama in the trenches, but being the athletes around the trenches. So they outflanked Alabama. Alabama was losing their coaches. They were losing a lot of these guys to the NFL and different things like that. So Clemson took a little bit of the Alabama mantra, which is the trenches. They hardened that. They did to Alabama what Alabama used to do to them, which was wear them out because they have so many good D linemen that can come and keep them fresh. Well, when Clemson took that crown from Alabama, right? Everybody just thought, oh, well, Clemson's going to beat LSU. But what did LSU do? LSU looked at how Clemson got over the hump against Alabama and figured out a way to get over the hump against Clemson. That's what we have to do. What we have to do. Until we do that, we will be 10-plus win teams, good year, but we won't get that national championship. The blueprint is there. The question is, can you get the guys here?
Go ahead, Ruth.
My thing is, and I'm 100% with you on that one as well. And I think what Tibb has done to kind of start developing it, and they went a good route by going JUCO and getting two guys that has size. I mean, you get a 300-pounder, number one and number two guy in JUCO or at OU on campus. But what you have to see from Tibb is the infusion of the young guys. Jordan Kelly has to come in and play for you and play well for you. The kid out of Kansas has to come in and he has to play for you as well. The wrestler, what's his name?
Marcus Hicks, sophomore and redshirt freshman, which you just mentioned.
Yeah, Marcus Hicks has to come in and he has to play for you and give you. So if you can go too deep at that position, at those two positions on the inside, and those young guys can give you a really good, solid, and the promise on this young guy is going to be really good. You can take those 2 years with the Winfreys and the Edison kid, and you can be like, yeah, you know what? We're going to be all right. Because Stokes going to hold his own. He'll be another year in it, and he'll be good. LaRon Stokes is going to be pretty good.
Yeah. So
you have 6 guys right there that can, hold the middle up. Because I think the outside, they're athletic. They got Perkins. They have Redmond, and you can use Redmond as a true DN instead of this in-between D tackle. With a Redmond on the outside, with a Perkins on the outside, those two guys are strong and can hold their own. Then you can go finesse with a Bonito, a Guebu, and those guys. Right now, they're just so weak up the middle, and you can't take care of outside and middle at the same time. You're not strong in either one. And you're good with Rodney Perkins on this side, but all that slanting and stuff. I think if they get the defensive lineman that they're trying to get, they won't have to move so much, and it could make them play faster. Clemson plays fast because they barely move. Alabama plays fast because they barely move. They know where guys are going to go, and they know. And as a linebacker, if you know he cannot single block that guy, I got time to go right. He can't single block that guy, I got time to go left. So if you have the biggest thing for a linebacker is time. If you have time, you can diagnose the play. If you have zero time, you can't diagnose the play. Everything has to be made at a snap decision. I think if you can get to the 3-second mark for a linebacker to where you can diagnose and look, right now, all of Oklahoma's linebacker had to make a decision at 1 and 2 seconds. Really, really good ones could make that decision pre-snap, like Teddy's and all those guys could make those reads pre-snap. But with Teddy, even though he could make those reads, he still knew he had 3 seconds because he had Tommy and Dusty in the middle, and he could move wherever he wanted to go. They don't have that right now. If you don't ever have those things, it's almost impossible to be successful as a defense consistently throughout a year. And whenever they had that movement and all that stuff, when they played against K-State, a senior offensive line, that movement didn't mean anything at all. They said, all right, I'm going to move. I'm going to leave 44 unblocked, and I'm going to go ahead and run at him because he's going to have to make the play because I know where y'all slanting at. And that's all they did. They just left 44 alone and picked up a guy in the box.
That was it. And just ran up and down the field.
Well said.
And Roof, where people, I hope people hear this because high school is different. High school, a lot of times, you have evenly matched, evenly sized, not many mismatches. What we're seeing when we get to the playoff, I hope people know what it's like to prepare for 2 360-pound defensive tackles. They don't. The guys that LSU had with that size, if you can't move those guys, you have no chance of winning that game. None. And then the other deal, Roof, and you could talk about this, is the size of the DNs that Clemson, LSU, and Alabama are getting. 315-pound, 295 to 350-pound DNs are a total that can run stop, that can rush like guys that are smaller, present a totally different mismatch than guys that are 230, 240, 250. Totally different, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, a 230-pound guy, you're going to run at a 230-pound guy. You're going to down block on the big guy. The only big guy we really had was Neville. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to take care of Neville. I'm going to down block on Neville, and I'm going to put a tight end. I can take a tight end and use a tight end to block, kick out on a guy. I could use a tight end to chip a 230-pound guy and then let my tackle go ahead and get rid of his speed and then let my tight end go out. You can do all those things, but try putting a tight end on a 260-pound man that's coming up the field.
Right.
It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. You're not gonna single.
No doubt.
No. And then you're either gonna rob Peter to pay Paul by keeping your tight end in and taking people out of the routes and having to go heavier. And we don't have that threat of
don't want to.
Yeah, or don't want to. You don't have to have that threat of, man, I need to keep a guy in. You releasing 5 all the time whenever you watch people play against OU. You're reaching 4 and 5 at a time. And when OU's defense was great, you had to keep a guy in. You had to keep this running back in and also had to chip with a defensive end on a Dusty. On a Dan Cody or on a CJ or on a Bird or on a Calvin Thibodeau because they were so good at getting where they had to get and understanding what's happening. I don't think the guys we have now read the tackles very well. If you saw Tib play, you saw Burt, you saw CJ play, they did a really, really, really great job of reading the tackles and knowing what blocking scheme was coming at them. They can diagnose pass and run right when the ball snapped. Guy blocked down, they did what they were supposed to do. They look for the guard on the inside. If they can beat him, they're going straight to the running back. Now our guys, it's just so different how they don't read the blocks. The scheme is so different. I think the RPO hurts them as well because you can be now 5-6 yards down the field. It looks like run, and then they're throwing a slant behind you against LSU. That's hard to play as a linebacker, let alone a defensive end. So you got so many things that work against those guys, but I just think the overall knowledge of your defensive end, I think that's another thinking position that you have to be smarter to play now because you're playing against so much RPO, and you have to be able to diagnose it fast. If you can't, your defensive end is not going to be very good. You're not going to be able to be very good on the outside. I think that's one of the biggest things in football now is the knowledge of your defensive end has to be really good. And OU adding Kane to the roster helps them out because you could have a true defensive end coach and a true inside coach. That was one of the biggest additions I think OU made to their coaching staff because Tibb trying to coach a defensive end and 2 defensive tackles don't
that
work.
May drop or that may shift out or that may have to cover flat or.
I mean, you got to teach them too much. You have to have too much knowledge as a coach, and you have to be able to transfer knowledge from 2 guys, and then one guy you have to have a different kind of set of knowledge too. And now when you have one guy being able to handle the 2 guys on the end, one guy able to handle the 2 guys on the inside, you can be hyper focused on what guys can do and what they need to do and what they see and all that stuff. I think that's going to go a long ways for OU if they can get past 2 years with that same staff intact.
That's real. Well, let's end it with this, PJ. What do you think it's going to take for us to become? Everybody wants to hear about the defense. We've had a pretty good, solid offense, but what's it going to take for us to have a complete defense? What's the last? You always bring up what's the last complete OU defense that you've seen. What does a current complete defense look like to you? Who's the best? Think of just this last college season. Yeah. Who's the most complete defense you saw in college last year? For me, it'd probably been LSU. I know they had a few bad games, but on every level, I thought they had playmakers, and I think it'll show in the draft. What you think, Pete?
Yeah, I mean that was a great LSU team, but the other 2, I mean, really. If not for a couple of calls, Ohio State could have been in the national.
I was going to say, yeah. Ohio State was
so they could have been in the national championship game. They had some calls not go their way. Obviously, Clemson has done their job, but again, Clemson got what they've been giving people. LSU had they had a little more depth on the D line. Their defensive front 7 to me was deeper, which means they were fresher later in the game. I saw Clemson guys get a little tired at the end of the game. And I thought Clemson had more fire. I thought LSU had more firepower on offense and defense. So Clemson was in a situation where they couldn't out-talent LSU. So the question is, could they out-hit them? And in the first half, they did a pretty good job of it. The second half, LSU kind of swallowed them a little bit. So I think what it comes down to is it isn't being LSU. It isn't being Clemson. It isn't being Ohio State or whoever else, Alabama, who's winning. We, from a historical standpoint, have been winning for a long time. We don't have to be them. We have to get back to who we really are. And who we really are is the line of scrimmage. Everything in football starts at the line of scrimmage. You give your offense and defense its versatility. If you have talented players on every level who knows exactly what they're supposed to do. Because in my opinion, you go truly full speed when you know what you're doing and you're confident that the other guys is going to do his job. That's when a defense, to me, works the best. And the guys that are coming in to give you a little breather or whatever defensive calls are calling at that point. That person coming in, they can do the job too. It doesn't mean that every player makes every play. Lawrence Taylor missed a bunch of plays. Reggie White, we can name them. But consistently knowing what you're supposed to do, consistently doing your job, and going full speed because, one, you're talented enough, you know what you're supposed to do, and when you get there, you will make that play. So I'm not going to put it just on defense, but in the last 4 or 5 years, it has mostly been a lot of defensive issues. This particular year, with the 4 guys going to the league, the offensive line was not as proficient as it's been the last couple of years. So we're close getting to the Final Four, but once we're in that big boy room, we're not as close as we look when we play in the Big 12, if we're going to be honest.
That's real. Finish us off, Ru.
Yeah, I think you look at a guy like Perkins, you look at Redmond. If you can bump Redmond out and you can play a true 4-line defense and then have a specialty with a Guebu and those guys be kind of your sack guys and kind of have that kind of thing going, you have to get back with size. down on the defensive line and be able to have size with speed. And that's what we've been lacking. We got speed, but you don't have the size with it. Or you have size, but you don't have the speed that you need with it. And what you've seen from all these other teams, from the Ohio States, from LSU, Clemson, Alabama, they've had size and speed.
Man.
In that player, and that does not have to come off the field.
Chase Young, Delpit, such and such. Yeah,
Queen. You had all these guys that had size and speed that you didn't have to really do much, but say, hey, go out there and be a guy. And we only have one guy, but we didn't have all those guys that were on the line that had that size and speed combination. We usually have speed. And it started with, I think it started a lot with Stryker. Stryker had that, he didn't have the size, but the dude had the speed and he can get to the quarterback. And we kind of stayed in that mode. I think we have to get out of that mode. And once you play against the LSUs and those guys, they're going to look at a smaller guy and say, we're going to run at him. Or we're gonna be able to block them up by doing X, Y, and Z. Having a grown man on the other side is a totally different ball game. The game changes because it takes off a lot of pressure. It takes pressure off of your DBs. They can jump routes a little bit better. You don't have to cover for forever down the field. OU's was stuck too often, covering for a long time because nobody can get to the quarterback.
Man.
Good point.
Man. Burrow was planning on scramble drill at the end of the game at a few times and was just like, I'm going to sit back here, wait till the rush breaks it, and then just break out and try and chunk a deep. I'm with you guys, man. We've got to get back to it. We've got to get some elite players, especially. And lastly, the article that I mentioned, the top 5 schools. It's all mid schools that you guys mentioned plus Georgia. So Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, LSU, and Georgia were the top 5 D-line U's, and probably the top 4, or easily the top 4 programs producing D-line are the guys that have won it in pass rush.
Before we go, I got a question now. Do you think Alabama starts to fall down?
No.
A little bit more? No, because look, losing the strength and conditioning coach that they lost.
Yeah, that's big.
That's huge. Losing the coaching staff that you lose year in and year out gets bigger and bigger. And every year, and I think that's where Alabama, like PJ said earlier, Clemson was able to get Alabama because Dabo Swinney understood. Mm-hmm. My staff is important, and I'm going to pay them. It's going to take a lot of money for you to come and get my guy.
Yeah. Well, I will say, Ruf, I think Georgia's up and coming.
Yeah, he is a knight from when I talked to Coach Venables. He said Dabo Swinney is the nicest guy to work for, most coach-friendly person to work for.
I believe
he's a family guy, so you don't miss a lot of time with your family, and he pays you well. He'll take a pay cut for his stuff so that you can get a raise, and he don't need to get a raise. He understands my staff needs to stay together. I can keep recruiting the same kids, and my recruiting doesn't change because my core staff stays the same. To keep BV and he's never going anywhere speaks volumes to a kid, because Brent Venables had opportunities to go so many different places, and a kid will go, I'm going to go to Clemson because my defensive coordinator going to be there no matter what.
Right.
The only reason I say – go ahead. I
mean to cut you off. Sorry, were you done, Ru?
Yeah, I'm done. Okay. Good.
Hey, only thing I was going to say about the Georgia thing, Georgia has a fertile recruiting ground, obviously, in the state. Easy.
Yep.
A lot of these schools that we were just talking about got a lot of Georgia players on it. But the one thing that Georgia does, they do two things to me. They have the appearance of they're up next.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think in the short term, what their reality is going to be is they're going to be, y'all were a little younger, but they're going to be the 90s Colorado. Right now, they're the 90s Colorado. And what I mean by that is Colorado was giving it to everybody until they ran up on Nebraska. Colorado could never win, could never perform in the biggest game. And that's what happens to Georgia. Georgia is talented enough to beat anybody. But when they get to that tipping point, they can't get over that hump. I'm not saying they won't, but I'm saying right now they remind me of the really good mid Colorado teams that were so talented. Trust me, I know. And we can name about 12 guys off of that team that went to the league. But if Georgia does not get over the hump at some point with what Rube was talking about, and you as well, JD, with Saban losing a lot of his assistants. We saw, was it a game last year or the year before, that you saw Nick Saban and one of his assistant coaches yelling on the sideline at each other. You didn't really see that before. So that harmony that they have for so many years is broken up. So now you have people with different ideas or people that are trying to use the Alabama name not to stay there, but to pivot off of that and get another job somewhere else.
Yes.
Alabama still is the run of this era, but they're no longer the Kings right now.
Yeah. I'm with you there.
LSU stay where they're at. I mean, they lose defensive coordinator and OC, the passing guy. Do they stay where they're at?
Well, what you guys are seeing, and not that it matters necessarily where you're from, but to me, what you're talking about, one, Georgia's producing it's got Atlanta, which I think is a lock. You can't underestimate what Atlanta is to the black population, to as far as what it's going to produce and always culture-wise be. Georgia's also bringing in top 5-star talent. So they've got 5-star talent in state, and they're bringing in 5-star talent out of state. They got a corner coming from Arizona. They were able to lock in their in-state quarterback. We had talked about committing the 5-star Georgia quarterback, Brock Vandegrift, that was committed to OU. It was going to be hard for us to keep him. A week later, he commits to Georgia. All that said, I feel like Alabama's damn D-line talent in state is so good that it's hard. And Ruf, you know how it is. And we thankfully were able to get you out of Louisiana. It's hard to get them elite guys out of Alabama because of how they operate. Maybe it's because of the SEC. Maybe it's because of home allegiances. Lastly, there was a kid from Alabama. I saw they had a D tackle going to Oregon. Bro, if only our main issue in Oklahoma, and you told it earlier, Rufus, the majority of guys that y'all mentioned in some of the D-line with Oklahoma and Texas, when we're able to have Power 5 production from guys around here that want to come stay here, so we don't have to go to Canada, so we don't have to go to the Samoa, so we don't have to go, we have to have a fertile, all those states which y'all mentioned, they have fertile D-line recruiting areas, and they have kids. They go into people's houses and say, you're going to the NFL. If you come here, you're going to the NFL. And we can't do that.
I think OU now, they're kind of switching the tide, too, to try to get a lot of these elite DBs that's in the state. I think that's why you see the Mooks offer is a big thing with him coming to OU, because OU has been missing on a lot of those superstar DBs. I mean, Hill going to Michigan. You got what's his name, Proctor going to Ohio State.
Slusher going to Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, so you have a big run of really talented guys that's in the state that's leaving as well, and you want those DBs to come here as. And I think OU's trying to make a push to offer more guys in the state that are really good. I think Oklahoma football skill-wise has risen up a lot since I've been in Oklahoma. Just with some of the kids that are playing and kids that I've seen play, they're better. They're getting a lot better. I don't think you'll ever have the size here in Oklahoma. It's always going to be maybe one or two guys, but you're never going to have a fertile ground on the guys. I mean, I think you get the guy from Broken Arrow, the big offensive lineman in the trenches. You get a few guys. I think O-line and D-line is going to be hard to make Oklahoma fertile ground, but their skilled players right now is really talented.
Yeah.
You look at Major, Dominic Richardson that's going to TCU, they're going to have a problem with
real deal.
TCU. He's a real deal running back. You're going to see those things right there. OU's going to have to kind of reevaluate, well, damn, you know what? We have a lot of really good skill guys here that we need to really kind of put on the map as well.
Last thing, Ruf, and one thing, and you kind of talked about this, and PJ, you can put your point in, but the spread offense has hurt Oklahoma, a lot of schools, because you haven't seen defensively the programs that are traditional and powerhouses have still focused a lot on defense. Thank God for the death squad at Carl Albert. At other schools, bro, it hit us hard, the one side playing, or, one position on offense or defense. because that takes your biggest guy. If you're trying to play 100 snaps on offense, you're trying to put him on the O-line. It's you're trying to put bigger guys. I'm a big guy these days, but I want to kind of play tight end. I want to kind of catch the ball. Those things weren't that way back then. A lot of Oklahoma guys that we used to get recruited, the positions, yes, I'm with you. The receiver, quarterback, all these other things, we've really come along. I don't see the D linemen coming along like we need them to. I don't see the killers out there that we used to. I don't see the guys that are, man, look at that team's D tackle. Man, that team looks hard to block. Man, this team just shut somebody out and scored, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's hard to say. Because, again, and I'm not going to tout my high school as being, but we're king of getting the 5x5 guys. 5 foot by 5 foot. If they were 3 inches taller, maybe they'd have. Yeah, you know how it is, Roof. But you mentioned those guys. Shit, you ain't double team or not. You ain't blocking them. Squatty bodies can bench 500-pound, whatever. But you're not moving those dudes. They take up gaps.
So let me ask you both this. How many scholarships does each school get a year?
85. 25 a year. And 25 a year. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So if everybody gets 25, right? That's all, as deep as Atlanta is. If they got every player from Atlanta, they can only do 25, right?
Yep.
So if there's so much talent in Atlanta, which it is, Florida dipped a little bit, but we know it's talent. The Carolinas, obviously Virginia, on down. My question is a 3-part question. If we all can get the same amount, which is 25, and we talk about Texas, Louisiana, whatever state you want to talk about, they can't sign everybody that they want. They can only get 25 like everybody else. If we're getting to the Final Four, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're getting to the Final Four. Nobody can get more scholarships than us. We may 1 or 2 depending on if somebody leaves. So then the question is it, do we have the right people looking for them? And can those people sign them? Because to say to me that we've been to the Final Four, 4 or 5 times, the Final Four 4 or 5 times, right? So let's say worst case scenario, we've been the 4th best team over this run. So the University of Oklahoma can't get what we need when we're in the top 5 year in and year out at the end of the year, and they're getting the same amount of players as us.
So I got a question for you.
Recruiting issue that has to be taken care of, and who is responsible?
No, you're right. That's real. Now, PJ, have you heard the stat? And this is why I do the roster breakdown. That OU's never won a national championship. They didn't have mostly Oklahoma players on the roster.
To me, that's a little overplayed, but I get it.
Okay, real shit, PJ. Real shit. It's so overplayed. Thank you.
The Salmon Brothers is not walking out of you follow, bro.
Right. Now, it's a multi-leveled question, if you ask me. So, yes, Ruth, the All-Americans in Oklahoma, especially on the D-line, are not in Oklahoma. That's 1. 2, the kids that are even all-conference type players, we're splitting between Texas A&M, and OU right now. And a large portion of them are going to A&M because the SEC allowed the A&M allowed Bama in their back door. Along with that, we are seeing every team has a solid foundation of in-state recruiting. They have in-state recruiting. They have a huge state next to them, and then they dip into national talent. Clemson's full of South Carolina kids. They get a little bit from North Carolina, and then they go into Florida to get the top player.
But you have to
go ahead.
You have to be good at what your state is good at. You got to be able to recruit what your state is good at. And right now, Oklahoma has been really good as a state of having really good skilled players, really good skilled DBs, really good skilled running backs, and they're allowing those kids to go. And they're getting a offensive lineman here and there, but their skilled players have been really good. So you need to lock up what your state's really good at, and then go and find the players somewhere else. The 5-star off defensive lineman here is not a 5, what you would consider a 5-star here. Like you said, he's 5x5. You got to go and get it somewhere else. Like you said, the 3-star, 300-pounder out of Georgia is a 5-star 300-pounder in Oklahoma at defensive line. So you have to go and find that guy that's not getting that Georgia offer because of he's in Georgia and there's so many 4- and 5-star kids. You got to be able to evaluate that and see that. And I think Tibbs done a good job of going to Missouri and getting kids, going down to Texas, going to North Carolina. Now they're starting to go to North Carolina and get some kids from over there. And
still getting the KDs, getting the Texas kids.
Yeah, getting the Texas kids, going to California and Arizona and getting the bigger kids because that's where the fertile grounds are at, and that's where you need to go and get them. But you can't get them here. And trying to look for the 300-pounders close in close proximity is not going to be here. It's going to be St. Louis, somewhere else, where Missouri's not really getting them, and you can get those guys here. So you have to go where it's at. But you have to get your in-state guys, which are your DBs, and those guys that are really talented in this state.
And that's what scares me, Ruth, is what you just said. You said about Missouri and Missouri not getting guys. Bro, their move to the SEC, and I told some fans this, in 10 years, Missouri and A&M will be happy they're in the SEC because any kid, they just got there was a kid from Ronnie Perkins High School. It came down to OU and Missouri, and he picks Missouri. Long story short, Missouri, by A&M moving, they're in so many more kids' top fives. They're so many more. All those in-state kids are keeping them in their realm. And so they're going to start being top 2, top 3, top 2. So whereas again, Roof, how many years do we have to see a DB leave from a school or an hour and a half up the road before we realize there's an issue?
You gotta, like I said, you gotta handcuff what your state's good at, what your state's producing. And right now, Oklahoma is producing really solid defensive backs, really solid running backs. Everything else is kind of up in the air of what you see.
Player here and there, Brendan Walker, McGinnis.
Line, you lock those guys up. But defensively, like I said, they've struggled at DB, and they're going out and getting Texas DBs that are 5'6", 5'7", 5'8". When you got a kid that's over there, Dax Hill's 6 foot, Proctor 6 foot. Look at Moog, that Moog kid. He's what, 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah.
You got another kid that's in Oklahoma that they're really high on that they're trying to get as well. I forgot the kid's name. And
where's he out of?
I think it's in Tulsa. I believe it's a Tulsa kid they're trying to get as well. But
it's the Booker T. It's
there's Booker T.
I'll think of it. I think I know what you're talking about.
So they're trying to lock up the Oklahoma kids again, which will go a long ways for them not having to really rush to go out and get 5-star DBs other places. Because all these guys are playing in all these elite pass scale stuff and all that. So you've seen them run and do all this and that stuff. So once Oklahoma's getting back to committing to doing that, they're going to get better at the defensive. At the back end is the front end that I'm super worried about.
Man,
like PJ keeps saying, the front end is where we're struggling at to find those guys. And like he said, Georgia can't get every single last five-star in state. Yeah. LSU can't get all theirs. Alabama can't get them all. You look at it, A&M, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Clemson, trying to get all these big kids that can run. And Clemson's keeping all theirs in state. Georgia's getting all theirs in state. LSU getting their top ones in state. Alabama getting their top ones in state. And Texas A&M is getting theirs in state. So there's some leftovers in those big states where you get the big body kids that are not going to those big schools. And that's the evaluation where with PJ is saying somebody's missing the ball on those 3- and 4-star kids in them other states. Because I'm not going small school. I'm going to where I can play on the big stage, and Oklahoma's playing on the big stage.
You're not picking Georgia Southern over OU.
OU, right. That's what I'm saying.
I did want to through one thing that kind of crossed my mind, so I want to get you guys' opinion on it real quick. Is something can be true, which is what you said, JD, about the Oklahoma players in the national championship games. That's true, but I think there's something different now. Whereas in the past, you had bowl game affiliations with conferences, right?
Right.
The Big 12, you were going where? You were going to go to a certain bowl game, right? Well,
Big 12.
now
Yeah.
what I'm saying, what's that, Rue?
I think yeah, you're right. Big 12 was Orange Bowl,
Right.
Orange Bowl, or they were going Sugar Bowl.
Right. So who you had in your conference with who you played, and then whoever was also had that same agreement with the Orange Bowl, best on best there. Right now in the Final Four, it's not an affiliation to a bowl game. It's the top 4 they think in the entire country, and then they'll send you to a bowl. It's different. I just think that's a little different in how some of the national championships were being played in the past. Not downing anybody's national championship, ours or anybody else's, but it's a new day now. You got to run up on 3 of those crews like we did last year. You're only going to play 2 of them if you can get past it, but it's tougher to win the national championship now.
Very true. Very, very true. Man, we could do this shit all day. And since we're quarantined, we probably shouldn't. No, I'm just kidding. No, man, it was appreciate you guys. Always appreciate you guys coming on. Value your thoughts for sure. We'll have to do this again soon. Hopefully this will all be done. What's your thoughts on quarantine, Rufus? Will it be done soon?
Bro, I'm just hoping by May it's done.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing you got to get people to take it serious. I mean, you got people in Florida that had to be told to leave. Now, listen, I'm not saying never leave it. You got to get out a little fresh air in the backyard. You got to go to get some, some things for the ice chest or some things for some food. So yes, you have to move around a little bit, but there's a lot of people that are not taking this serious until they start to see some things like we saw with New York the other day about not having enough ventilators, the number of people's deaths going up. Sometimes it takes a tragedy to get to people's sensibility. I'll just say this to both of you and your families and everybody listening out there. God bless. And I just say this, don't look around, look up. We're going to get through this, but we got to get through it smartly.
Yeah. Real. I mean, for the most part, I'm at home, go to the store, get what I need to get. My office, I go to my office, and there's nobody that comes to my office anyway. So I do everything by computer and phone. So I'm not around a lot of people anyway. So that's one of those things, man. But man, we just got to get smart because I can't take just being in the house and not, things not open. I just need the gym.
Exactly.
Come
through. You can borrow the backyard. I'll stay 6 feet away from you. Don't worry. You can get on some of the bungees and TRX. I got you, fam.
Man, that has to get under control, man. And I hopefully by mid-May, things start to open back up and people get to move around because this isolation thing. I'm about to organize my pantry. I just did my garage.
I was about to say you got to get to work on the garage too. Yeah,
I just finished that, man. I cleaned up everything in the garage, swept it, all that stuff, blew all the trash out. Cut up a cardboard box and everything, man. I need to find something else to do. I done raked the backyard.
That's real. I cut my front yard this morning. I told my son I had to make chicken wings last night. I'm like, dog, I'm about to go eat a few of them. Speaking of.
My wife scrubbing walls and stuff. She need to get out of here. She's gonna drive us all crazy.
Yeah. While we on this quarantine, let me get a gumbo recipe, Roof.
Ooh, if you know how to make a roux, you're gonna be all right, baby.
All right.
You gotta know how to make your roux. I do. If you're not big on the chicken with the bone in it, get you some chicken breast, brown it, chop it up, put it up in that thing. Add you some andouille sausage. If you're a seafood guy, get you some shrimp. If not, stick with the sausage and the chicken, baby. And chop some onions and bell peppers, toss it up in there and season it to go.
Oh man, that's real. Hey, well, next time we got to talk about food. We already talked about music, so we'll just talk about what y'all eat next time. So
all right.
Y'all stay safe, man. Wash your hands and everything.
Stay safe.
Y'all stay blessed, man. Be careful.
All right, bro. Fullback U.
Peace.
Welcome back to Fullback U. I am Brad Reed along with our superstar host, J.D. Runnels. And I say that because I've made a little list.
List.
Yeah, I've talked to a few people, some people we've had on the pod, some family members.
Okay.
And I made a list of some of your top 10 moments, like in college and NFL, stuff like that. And
so I get to break down like LeBron
is
going to break down his play. Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're doing here. I like that.
I have some I want to ask you about, and I thought what we'll do is we'll break it down. We'll do the 10 through 5 here. Well, we'll do 10 through 6 here. Then on the next pod, we'll do 5 through 1. And then that way everybody will
Sounds great. Great. I'm excited. All right.
So let's start. Number 10, I've got Kejuan, Alabama touchdown.
Oh man, Kejuan's Alabama touchdown. We were losing my first game in Norman. So it was probably, experience for my family as well. But Alabama had played this crazy game. They tried a bunch of tricks on us, and a bunch of them had worked.
Right.
We had been losing majority of the game, and we end up scoring this touchdown towards the end of the game. Kejuan does, and I had a block on it, and Rob run and grab him, and it was just kind of surreal. My first game in Norman, it's against Alabama. I get to freaking play in it as a true freshman, and then I'm in on it. One of the game, what ends up being the touchdown that gives us the lead. We scored one more touchdown, but just an awesome memory for your first freaking game in Norman. How about that one?
All right, JD, that was number 10 with Kejuan Jones in Alabama. That must have been an awesome experience. At number 9, this is also something that, like I was saying last podcast, you've got a lot of memories that are a lot of people only dream of. And
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm talking about right now at number 9, your state championship game touchdown.
Man, well, we mentioned the last pod. My senior year, I scored one in the same end zone at OU that I scored my freshman year. But my junior year, the one you're talking about, we played Ada, and just a memorable touchdown just because we had lost to Ada earlier in that year. Mm-hmm. I was asleep all day, and it was a groggy morning and just real foggy, and just remember it felt like I woke up, put my pads on, and went out to the play. And we stopped them on the first series. We end up getting the ball. I think it was either second or third down. My coach calls me in motion. I almost jump off sides, Brad, but it helps me because right as I say hut, I jump into the play, knock this dude over, run a crossing route. My quarterback hits me with a low pass, so I made a decent catch on it. Catch the ball, and when I turn up the field, when I turn around, there's a safety there. Well, the safety, his name was Brian Young. The reason why I know that is we played Little League football on the same team together. He moved from Oklahoma City to Ada, and so I don't even realize it's Brian that's right by me. But so I catch it, tuck it, and just like push him, and I didn't even realize it was him, and I end up stiff arming him pretty good, scoring a touchdown in front of their cheerleaders. Felt bad because it was my buddy, but I was super, super stoked. Incredible memory, got us going, ended up winning MVP that game, and that game was at OSU, so I thought I was going to get recruited by OSU after that game, but I was wrong, and that's okay.
All right, so you've got touchdowns, I guess, in state championship games, in college, and then also in the NFL.
Yes.
So I want to talk about your NFL touchdown.
Oh man, playing my third preseason game. Had been working my way up. I think I was at like second string fullback at that point. We play the Arizona Cardinals, and I only get to go in on 2 plays, Brad, on offense. So I've been working my way on special teams and trying to get to play. And this whole deal, they come in, and I come in on the first play, and they call a bootleg. So I run out to the flat, and I'm thinking I'm gonna get the ball, and I don't get it. And so I was like, all right, well, then we threw the boot, and I think somebody, Brian Greasy, had hit somebody else on a pass, and we get down to like the 3-yard line. Well, then we're in, because I'm in on the I formation package, and they call power pass, K4, which is me on the flat. And so I run it, and Greasy hits me, and I catch the touchdown, and I just point up to the crowd, just kind of bob my head. And I didn't know what the hell to do because we were losing. I think we were losing that game, but I was just super excited, and then just ran up, tugged on my teammates and ran and got everybody on the sidelines. But super hype. I think I still have the ball somewhere. So
that was my next question. If you kept that ball, because I've seen a few.
I will get JD3 knows where the ball is. Nice. Now, whether I'm able to get that information out of him without DHS being called is another story. No, I'm just kidding. I would never. But yeah, he has the ball. I'm not for sure what he's done with it, like a lot of his toys.
So your NFL touchdown number 8. At number 7, and these I've kind of determined the order of things a little bit. As we've gone through, but Bowling Green, the helmet gets knocked off. Tell me about this.
Oh man, yeah, we were playing Bowling Green, and there was a dude who, this was Adrian Peterson's first game at OU, and we ran a play, and I think Kejuan, who's going to be coming on the pod soon, as we mentioned, it was either a Kejuan or no, this was an AD play, and one of the two, I'm not sure. We're running a sweep, and there was a guy who earlier in the game I wanted to get back, and I'm looking this way, and I saw him out of the corner of my eye, Brad, and I just turned back and just hit him, and he just falls to the ground, and his helmet just like starts rolling. It was almost like and the crowd it was like,
yeah,
like, it was like somebody's head had been what's that machine called?
The guillotine.
The guillotine. It's like somebody's head had been guillotined and just started rolling off, and the whole crowd. So yeah, I can officially say I know what it's like. They were excited. Back then violence was appreciated.
Yeah.
And so everybody was excited, and I was hype, and but I'm pretty sure that was an AD play, and I apologize because there was an outside guy too, and if I would have blocked that guy, AD might have scored.
Oh.
But I apologize. I just wanted to get some back.
Right. Okay, so this is the last one we'll feature on this show, and then we'll get to 5 through 1 on the upcoming pod. So this last one is your touchdown versus Douglas. Tell me about that as the people see the highlights.
God. This play is crazy, Brad. Can't believe this is 6. Well, what a lot of people forget is my dad went to Douglas. We've done this pod with my dad. My senior year, Douglas, we had played them in my junior year. They beat us during the regular season. We beat them in the playoffs. They come to our place this senior year and beat us during the regular season and just punk us in front of our home crowd. And then we come play them in the playoffs. Well, our coach said that we had gotten intimidated. So instead of us getting intimidated in person, he said we had this bright idea that we were going to show up right as the game started. We were going to warm up at our place, get dressed, do all that, drive the little 5-10 minute drive to Douglas, and jump out on the field. The whole crowd's going to be there. Well, we get there, nobody knew where we were. The whole crowd's going crazy, all that. Well, it's a pretty tight game, and it's 7-7. I think it's the third quarter, and I hadn't gotten a pass all game. I was probably our only receiving threat of this game. Douglas's defense, they were unbelievable. They were really flying around. Well, Coach Rose basically calls like a little delay for me. And so I block the guy, and I run out to the flat and catch the ball. A guy's trying to tackle me. He falls off, make a move, stiff arm a guy, and run in for a touchdown. Well, what was so memorable about it, one, it was to take the lead. It was the stadium was they had some renovations being done to it, so most of it was closed off. So it was like a small school game. So when people see this, they're going to see people standing around like it's a small school game. Like they were just standing on the stadium or around the field because there were many places to go. Well, I'm stoked. I'm excited. So I cross the line. I'm throwing the finger up. The number 1. I'm excited, hype, blah, 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 blah. Well, as I was yelling, I didn't realize, nobody was around me at this time. Well, all my teammates come from 50 yards and dogpile on me. Right. Well, it didn't help that I had been yelling because the ref was probably like, this kid needs to chill out. Right.
Yeah.
Well, then I get dogpiled, and after all that yelling and getting dogpiled, I cannot breathe at all. I mean, I'm sitting there like on the bottom of the pile, like trying to breathe. So I get up. And I'm on a knee. I don't even get up. I'm on a knee. And I take my helmet off. And I look at the ref, and I just see him I can't even say I'm tired. And I just see this slow motion, just him throw a flag. And I'm like, So I go over, and it's like a 30-yard celebration penalty, too. That's the other thing. So I go over to my coach. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I can't breathe. Just trying to tell him, what's going on. Everybody jumped on me. Well, we have to kick this 30-yard extra point. We miss it.
Yeah.
Right? Kickoff, the kickoff, they return it for a touchdown. Okay. So they take the lead, and I'm thinking I just lost our state championship 14-13. Like I just lost us the state championship because of a boneheaded play that I made, wanting to talk mess and all that.
Right.
Long story short, they ended up messing up in the fourth quarter. They had a bad snap. We converted for a touchdown, ended up winning for a touchdown. Get the heck up out of there. Memorable moment though, man. Memorable. Golly. Thought I had lost it for us, Brad. I was like, oh, I'm going to be on a movie. The streak is over because of this idiot. You know, like all the punchlines. If I would have had Twitter, my mentions would have been worse than they usually are. Like, I don't even know.
Yeah, you know? That's one of those things where sometimes you're either the greatest of all time or the worst, just depending on one thing going the right way.
Oh man! Well, I'm glad I was good there. And by the way, the sticks and stones may break my bones, but tweets are just really funny.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Nice try.
That was 10 through 6 on our countdown of your top plays that we've. I went behind your back basically while you were. I appreciate out of the room. I've been compiling data here. Yeah, that's how I do it.
My bro. And it's data research, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put the highlights to these, and then we're gonna put those out. It's gonna be great.
You the man, dog. Super producer. Another great episode of Fullback U.
Thank you.